Hey everybody, Mikey Kung Pao here. Hey, I know I promised to come and talk to you about a series on a very serious topic, global warming. And I'm going to, believe it or not, I'm going to tie this to the topic of Jodi Arias. So today I don't have a chance to do the serious work on global warming because I'm shivering so badly. And so instead we're just going to talk a little bit about Jodi Arias and global warming. And of course, I got a special thing here to help me not get too hot and sweaty during the global. See how I put that on my? I can put my hands in there. See, I've got the. So, do you know that this is like the coldest winter in like 100 years, and something like several thousand cold temperature records have been broken this year. And last year, several hundred were, and the year before that, several hundred were, and the year before that. So you see, you get the idea. In fact, global warming has become so bad that here in my hometown Santa Cruz, on the coast of California, you know how they talk about how the sea level is going to catastrophically. Why can't I talk? I'm so incubated. How the sea level is going to catastrophically rise many, many feet over the next few years. Well, this year in Santa Cruz, where measurements been going on for a long time, since the sardine runs in the 1800s, the sea level right now is the lowest on average it's ever been since measurements be taken. Interesting, isn't it? So I guess the sea's not going to wash us all away just quite yet. Of course, this has to do with La Nina and some other things. And I promise in a future video, I'm going to come and talk seriously, but entertainingly. I'm not going to bore you to death with chart and graph, anything like that. But I will talk to you about each facet. I'll probably do a series of video like one on sea levels and we will use actual government data that's valid to talk about this, plus or minus, pro and con, give both sides of issue. You know, I'm in rocket science. I don't like to just look at things from one perspective, like it's a political football. We don't want to talk about the politics. We want to talk about the actual science. So we're going to do that in the future. But right now you say to me, Mikey Kung Pao, what did all this have to do with Jodi Arias? Well, let's take a peek at a couple of current global warming crisis thing. Then we'll look at what Jodi Arias been up to lately. Then we'll wrap it up. And by the way, the reason I've been gone so long is I had a serious crisis in my own life. Not global warming crisis, but like family crisis, job crisis. You know, I went in Texas. Was it last week or week before us? It's all blur now. Big ice storms and stuff down there. They usually have, wildflowers growing about this time of year. But these ice storms were going crazy. And I walk out one morning, my entire rental car covered in a big, thick sheet of ice. Yeah, it took me, first it was hard to get into the door of the thing. I had to chip ice off of it to get the key in. That took about a half hour. Then I had to let the car warm up for like an hour. So with the defroster and the heater on to get the ice to finally come off the windows, because you couldn't even use a scraper, it was so thick. Anyway, that's the kind of thing, crisis. I was 10 hours late to my flights and everything. Flight crews were stranded all over the East Coast because of the global warming thing. They were stuck from ice and blizzards and snowstorms. I got some guys that are in my group. I manage engineering group in rocket science. And they're all getting stranded several times this winter. They can't go anywhere because all the airports closed from ice and snow. Again, caused by global warming, of course. So anyway, let's go look at a couple of clips, and then we'll be right back. And we're going to do a really short one tonight. And, I'm hoping to do these a little bit more frequently, but been a really tough schedule on a lot of this thing. Got food poisoning. I'm not going to go into all of that and bore you. Anyway, let's go look at a couple things, then we wrap it up. So check this out, everybody. Global warming has gotten so bad that when we look at temperatures for winter time, the temperature this year in North America is the coldest using our Jody Arias ecology and health of the earth tool. Our temperatures this winter is the coldest since 1912. Okay, that show you how much hotter the globe is getting. By the way, you can see if you look closely on this thing what some trends are. If you kind of draw a trend line, from about 1900 to 1930, temperatures were pretty much rising. You can see that trend there. They were rising. And from about 1930, mid-30s until mid-70s, you can see that temperatures was falling. And that's why Back then, scientists were saying, oh no, coming ice age, global cooling, man is causing it, by the way, from all his emissions. That's what all the scientists were saying when I was back in school, And then it started warming again here from about 1979 up through about 1990 or so, 89. But since then, this is too compressed to see the trend line, but it's actually in a downward motion since then. And temperatures haven't warmed in 17 years, but the globe is really heating up, just so you know. Okay, let's look at some other terrible effects of global warming that we've been seeing. Here we have the Arctic air, where the East Coast, this is a typical winter, where Arctic air come down, and 30 to 40% of the Great Lakes gets covered in ice. That's in a typical year. But what happened this year? Oh, I didn't get my scroll bar where you can see. This year, basically the entire Great Lakes is covered in ice. A little patch of open water on Lake Michigan, but the rest of it's all ice. So this is more ice than they've seen in, I don't know, what does it say here? Since so there was a winter in the early 90s, and before that it was many decades before. So they're having the worst winter in a long, long time. And then we also have a very serious issue. We had a climate expedition, climate change expeditionary science boat go to the Antarctic, and they were going to show us how all the ice had disappeared. And what happened to them was they got stuck in sea ice. Okay, so that's looking one side of the ship. They had to be rescued because they were trapped in sea ice down there, because the global warming was causing it all to melt. So at least that's what they were thinking. And that's another view. And then this is a view down here looking off where we go here? Looking off the bow of the ship here. So looking out at all ice where they said there would be water because it's so hot down there. By the way, Antarctica has more sea ice right now than all time in recorded history. And the sea ice mass down there is much larger than the sea ice mass in Arctic. So it actually means more that we have the largest all-time history sea ice in Antarctica. Anyway, so you see there the very scary effects going on from global warming. So just a couple of things I was looking at on the web. We won't go into a long discussion tonight, limited time, but I found on Wikipedia entry for murder of Travis Alexander. And I like this one because, first of all, it got a picture of Travis and no picture of the psycho stalker succubus from hell, who is so narcissistic she wished her picture were on everything. So I'm glad they got that. And then they got most of the facts right. They go into how, she's all the things she do, what happened in the trial, and all the evidence they found against her, and how she had a history of stalking him and climbing through doggy doors and slashing his tires and terrorizing him for a long time before she committed the murder. And it goes on and talks about the pre-trial and Nermi and all those folks. So it's a very good account, good balanced account, has most of the interesting things in there, talk about penalty phase, and it's all up to date, talk about how the current trial been postponed, like it has been about 875 times before, and appeals and all that stuff. So you may want to check that out if you get a chance. Murder of Travis Alexander entry. And good, well-balanced article in Wikipedia. So I also want to take a little gag-fest peek. Do you gag when you see that? I do. I want to take a little gag-fest peek back at Jodi Twitter account. Because last time we looked at it, she was still putting entry. Here she say, on January 30th, she say, signing off. Oh no, we don't get to hear from Jodi anymore. I so bummed out. Then she talk about some things, but what did she say before that? Whoever take over this account will not be representing my view, opinion, and philosophy and belief, but their own. I guess she's trying to distance herself from what she said before, But before that, just want to say, this is the tie-in to global warming. I promise to tie it together. When you go down through, okay, she has some very important tips for you all, of course. Drinking coffee or tea when eating seafood reduces your absorption of mercury by 50 or 60%. So keep this in mind if you're going to eat, say, 200 pounds of tuna over the next week or two. because you will be at risk for some mercury poisoning if you do that. Okay, so now she say, we poison the oceans and the fish, and then we harvest it and the fish poison us. See, she become very ecological now, and she's going to save the planet, and she's telling us all the way she's going to do it. She's giving us links to Consumer Reports and stuff. What else she say here? Let's see, more quotes. You know how I told you before, she quotes other people a lot because she has never had an original thought in her head. And, but she is very incubated. We have to keep this in mind. So, the world can't come to. Okay, what else does she say? Darkness cannot drive out only darkness. Only right can do that. Hate cannot drive out hate. See, what she's talking about is that you shouldn't be a hater. And so she's trying to set the example for us of what it means to not be a hater. Because, of course, she's never had any of that in her heart. And, which is why she did 29 stabbings and a throat slitting and a gunshot to head and some tormenting and abuse leading up to it. Anyway, so I just thought we'd catch up on that, and I'll be happy we don't have to hear from her Twitter account anymore for a while. All right, I'm back. And as you can see, I'm not so chilly now because, actually here on the West Coast, it's been in the 70s. So I'm sorry about you people back east where it's minus 20 and stuff. And up there in Minnesota and all them places. And all the whole eastern seaboard and stuff, big blizzards and everything. And come out here to sunny California sometime and enjoy our weather. Okay, so, but anyway, back to the subject of Jodi Arias. I told you I'd tie together our global warming theme with her trial. Now, is it just me, or do you have a feeling like a lack of closure on this thing? Because it's been going on for so long, several years since the crime committed. Her trial went on for a year? I don't know how long it went on. At least 6 months. I can't remember now. As I recall, I was doing video on this trial. I opened this YouTube account a year ago, roughly, when her trial started. And here we are a year later, and no penalty, even though she'd be convicted. So it going on. And now she's showing us how she has become the savior of the world, sitting there in her jail in Arizona. And she worried about styrofoam cups and things that they use there in Estrella in the jail. And she's going to save the world and fix all these ecological disasters like global warming that she worry about so much. So here is my tip for Jodi Arias. But first, on how she can, really do some good in that area. But first of all, when and if her penalty phase, it was supposed to start about now, but it, of course, not going to, because again, postponed like always. If it ever do start up, we're going to cover it here, of course, closely. But unfortunately, we won't be able to watch it in real time or even in delayed time. And I'm going to really miss watching Juan Martina tear Jody into pieces, aren't you? I hope that we get good reporting on that. I don't mean to indulge in Schadenfreude, but in Jody's case, we actually, I saw yet another one of those stupid old men who always are like Jody troll fanatics. He was on one of them websites saying how it's a setup for her and it's a witch hunt. And now on this witch hunt thing, come to think of it, most of the time when you have witch hunts, you don't find the witch. But in this case, I think they actually did. So even if it were a witch hunt, it was a successful one. Okay, and they've also found Beelzebub and the succubus in the process. But anyway, Jody has her campaign now to show us how noble and moral she is, saving the planet, and how we shouldn't be haters, because she herself, of course, has never shown any such anger in her heart toward anyone. And therefore, I have a tip for her to save the planet from global warming. We have been told that the problem is with global warming, lots of CO2, man-made, what they call anthropogenic CO2. Okay, so what we can do, or suggest to Jody, is that if she would just stop breathing out CO2, which of course implies that she needs to stop breathing in oxygen, in other words, stop breathing, then her carbon footprint would be greatly reduced on this planet, and I think she would do a lot of good titled Global Warming. So hopefully in her penalty phase, that will be one of the things that she will allocate to so that she can save us all from that terrible fate. Anyway, sorry that I've been gone so long. I'll try to come back more often now and then because I love I love to do these videos, and I never have enough time to do them. It really upset me because I got about 1 trillion ideas that I want to do, and but we'll come back and do some other thing. And meanwhile, until then, please don't go with no sociopath. All right, take care, everybody.